Good morning, and thank you for joining me on Crossfire today. My name is Aga Ine Ishoma. On the program today, we'll be taking a cursory look at three fundamental areas, and that will be on the anti-graft war, any success so far, of course, herdsmen crisis, which seems to be increasing rather than reducing, and of course, our favorite, youth involvement in politics. Joining me on that discussion is no other than Barrister Kingsley Nwabegu. He is a legal practitioner. But before we go into the focus for today, let's quickly take a look at stories which have made the trends during the week. Now, the first on my list, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, has warned soldiers to stay clear of politics, adding that he received information that some individuals had been approaching some officers and soldiers for undisclosed political reasons. Mr. Buratai warned that men and officers caught in meetings with politicians would be penalized. In other stories, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission on Tuesday did arraign two self-acclaimed whistleblowers, Buhari Fanami and Bakura Abdullahi, on two separate charges before Justice M.T. Salihu of the Federal High Court Maiduguri for allegedly giving false information to the agency. The EFCC said in a statement by its spokesman, Mr. Wilson Uwajaren, that Mr. Fanami had misled the commission with information about illegally acquired monies purportedly buried at the residence of one Balawan, but the information turned out to be false after the execution of a search warrant. In other stories, the Senate has asked the federal government to present the budgets of corporations, agencies, and parastatals to the legislature in 2 weeks. The lawmakers issued the ultimatum at the plenary on Wednesday. Also, the Senate barred the affected corporations and parastatals from capital expenditure until their budgets had been passed by the legislature. The lawmakers decried non-compliance with Section 21 of the Fiscal Responsibility Act by government agencies. In other stories, another statesman and leader of the Northern Elders Council, Alhaji Tanko Yakasai, on Tuesday in Kano reaffirmed his earlier position against the restructuring of the country, contending that Nigeria will remain indivisible. While responding to questions on the state of the nation, Mr. Yakasai maintained that despite the lingering agitation from some quarters for restructuring of the country, nobody to date has come out with a blueprint to back up restructuring. According to him, as long as no one comes out with a blueprint on restructuring of the country, he will continue to pitch his tent with proponents for the unity and stability of the country. However, he argued that if those agitating for the restructuring of the country will come up with a convincing blueprint, he might choose to or not to support the agitation. He contended that the country will be a lot stronger and a force to be reckoned with in sub-Saharan Africa if it remains an indivisible entity. Now, we'll quickly go on a break, and then when we return, we'll go straight to the focus of the program today. We'll be right back. You're welcome back, and of course, this is still Crossfire. I see I have Barrister Kingsley Nwabegu in the studio. I hope I got that correctly.
No, you didn't get it right. It's Nwabegu.
Nwabegu.
It's not barrister.
Okay. Kingsley Nwabegu, and of course, he's a policy and public analyst. Thank you for joining me on the program today.
Thank you for having me, yes.
Thank you. Now, like I did mention earlier, the focus of the program today will be on three main areas: the anti-graft war, youth involvement in politics, and of course the herdsmen crisis. Now, as a Nigerian citizen and as someone who is outside of politics,
yes,
as someone who is patriotic enough to wanting this country to grow and develop and come out from the level it is today, how would you rate the anti-graft war so far?
Okay. The truth be told, it's been on the front burner for so long, especially with this new government. It's in fact one of the foundational pillars this government is running on. So much so that in the last elections, I don't think they had a conversation on the economy, but they really hammered on fighting corruption, which is quite good, and I think it's important. However, my perception of it is that it's been a lot of hot air in the sense that while they genuinely, because I can't read people's intentions, so from their actions, why they genuinely want to do this, they maybe have gone about it wrongly. So they haven't achieved as much or covered as much grounds as they want or they would have loved to. You know, and that's just my genuine intention and perception about the whole thing. It feels a bit like we want to do a lot of media war other than really trial in court. You know, and
showmanship, according to the senior president.
Yes, showmanship. Yes, in the senior president's words. And I really would like to say it ties in also to how this government got into power. This government ran its elections or its campaign on propaganda. They were very good with the media. They are very, very good with the media. I have to give them that credit. They're very good with the media. They know how to use the media. They know how to put the words out there so people can latch onto them. And interestingly, we're a society that runs with news. So for instance, if somebody is brought on if someone is just accused of anything, and I'm not even talking about before them now. I mean, normally in our culture, generally, if someone is accused of anything, people don't go to ask what really happened. People don't bother to research.
As long as it's in the media.
As long as it's the media, the person is guilty as charged. And even when there's, final proof of innocence, like he didn't do it and all of that, nobody gets to find out that last bit of information. Yeah. He's always been referred to as that person who did that or who was linked to this and who was. So it's the culture that we have. It's that tabloid journalism kind of thing that we have. And so that has carried over into our corruption fight, whereby it's very sensational. It's a lot of hot air. It has that feeling. And I don't think, to be fair, I don't think that maybe that's what they wanted to achieve, to be fair, but unfortunately that's what it is.
So if you rate them now on the scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate them generally? The EFCC, the anti-graft agencies, probably the DSS, and then the prosecution, how prosecution, gathering of evidences. And
Good. I like the sub-clauses you've brought in, because if I was just going to go on a broad base, I was going to put them 1 to 10 on different sub-clauses. Yeah. So 1 to 10 on media addressing and all of that will be a 9. Or if I 9.5, and just because they're not perfect, 9.5, great. But on actual prosecution, I'm sorry, it's about 3.5, 4. It could be a lot better, especially because you find out that they get to court and then they're dropping the ball. They get to court, they're losing cases because the prior work hasn't been done. The foundational work of the whole case hasn't been done.
Well, let's quickly look at this. Yes. Now, the senior president at Senator Dino Melaye's book launch titled Antidotes of Corruption was quoted as saying the anti-graft tool was more, the anti-graft agency rather was just pursuing showmanship rather than proper investigation. But now, the learned senior advocate of Nigeria and chairman of the Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, Professor Isseh Sage, came out and then, of course, he debunked their claims, stating that the main problem was that high-profile individuals had amassed satanic sums of money, even more than the state, which, of course, could pervert justice. So they had so much financial resources, and then, of course, they could swing the case in whatever way they wanted. Not necessarily that the anti-graft agency had not had due diligence, because according to him, they had also shown them how to carry out their investigations to be able to secure convictions, which unfortunately were not quite seen. So if we look at the objectivity of both parties' statements, based on objectivity, who would you pick?
Yes, I would pick the Senate President's statement. Here's why. There's a reason they say prevention is better than cure. There's a reason that statement sells. There's a reason it's, in fact, in safety, which is my field, we call it hierarchy of control, and one of the things we like to do is to eliminate the hazard in the first place. So the first thing you want to do is ensure the monies don't get into their hands before we start talking if they're satanic or not, and before we start talking about them using it in the courts of law to fight against you. So don't let them get the monies. Don't let them have structures and systems that allow for them to have unlimited discretionary powers. They can do anything they want with the money and don't have to account to anybody. That is the whole crux of what the Senate President is going for. We have to develop our systems in such a way that anybody who's in charge of monies has to answer questions. You understand? And it's not just an open check. That way, we reduce the amount of money, because the reality of the matter is that you don't have saints. There's a reason the Panama Papers was such a big deal last year. You understand? And it wasn't just Nigerians on that list. You had foreigners on that list. So humans have the attitude to always want to break boundaries. It's just a natural thing. But it's tighter when you're hedged in. So you really have to get creative. But some
of these high-profile cases, which dates back to monies misappropriated, as against what they should have been used to, dating back to previous administration. I mean, what kind of safety mechanism do you expect this government to put in place, making sure that they do not have access to those funds? Remember, some of those funds that were traced to them were frozen.
Yes.
But then, of course, that doesn't mean that they do not have access to other funds which probably were unknown to the anti-graft agency. So at the end of the day, do you really think we can come out of this? And then what lesson is being passed across future generations. 2019 is not far.
It isn't. It isn't.
It is not far off. And corruption, unfortunately, has so trickled down to every strata of our society. For a lot of Nigerians, a lot of people were hoping that the anti-graft agency would secure a lot of convictions as a way of serving proper deterrence to generations.
I would advise this government on two platforms or two approaches. The first is I want them to come to the fore with all the steps they have taken or all the steps they are putting in place to ensure that people account for monies they receive. You understand? That way, we don't have, for instance, in the event that the PDP or any other party wins the 2019 elections, we start having massive amounts of money being thrown about that we're missing and all of that.
But that will always happen in Nigerian politics.
No, it might not always happen.
The institutions are not strong. I mean, you have individuals, sorry to cut you in, you have individuals from various political parties, especially at the state government level. So it feels like a witch hunt? So at the end of the day...
and that's another thing. You mentioned a very good point there.
Now let me ask you.
Which talked about state levels.
Let me ask you, how many states have paid? How many states have paid salaries?
No, let's rephrase that. How many states have actually declared the breakdown of their budgets and put them online?
Okay, for transparency.
For transparency. How many states have even done that? That's the big issue that we have here. So while everybody is so focused on the center, the real issues also, as it concerns me and you, is what is Lagos State doing with how much it's getting? Is it doing the maximum it can do for every naira it's getting? You understand? Ditto for every state in the federation. How come we are not still having that separation of local governments and state governments? Autonomy. So it extends further down. We need to extend that conversation from just the FG and the senators and the judiciary down to a state level, down to a local government level. Local government elections are coming up in Lagos State. How many people are having those conversations with the people who want to lead them? So it's all about the systems and how it plays and the sensitization of the people. And I think that's the biggest drawback we have in our country. The notion that we think that someone can go in there and just wave a magic finger and something's going to happen. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. Sorry to bust the bubble. It's not going to happen because we're talking about principalities and powers, to borrow the biblical term. You know, so it's going to take a lot of work and it's going to take a lot of conscious effort, education of the people to know their role that they have to play. Ask the questions. Somebody is coming to you now to run for a local government position. Ask him questions. How does he intend to revamp that local government you walk past every day? How does he intend to walk those roads that are around him and get it done? You understand? What does he intend to do with the revenue coming in? Before we start talking about the state level, we'll move it up to the federal level. That said, too, we also cannot take away the fact that punishment for those who have taken monies should also come true, which is where investigation of your cases cannot be oversaid. One cannot hamp on that point enough. You have to investigate those cases. You don't investigate them on the pages of the newspapers. The truth of the matter is that I'm looking at this beautiful spread over here. Fantastic headlines, beautiful. The reality of the matter is that you sell a lot of papers. You get a lot of traffic to blogs, but that's about where it ends. You understand? It will create some jobs. To be fair, it will create some jobs. But those are not the kind of jobs we need.
Not sustainable.
That's sustainable. We need to bring this down and say, okay, investigate properly. I would rather have the EFCC say, have a slam dunk case, or at least a case with a 98% chance of success, and you get into court. And
there probably little information in the public.
Exactly. Even if, because we are still in the free, we have to understand it's a democracy, and we also have freedom of speech, freedom of information, and all of that.
Let's just oppose now the EFCC and the ICPC. The ICPC really, with all sincerity, they've not really been at the fore in terms of when it comes to media, jingles, and a lot of noise. We barely hear so much, from the ICPC as regards what they're doing, the anti-graft war, and then how much money they have recovered. But then the truth is they're working.
True.
They're achieving a lot of successes.
You can actually achieve a lot without using the media.
So do you think, if the EFCC cuts down on media attention, on publicity, do you
I would rather they had a lot of media attention on, case progress, on maybe not necessarily put all the evidence in public glare, because in the end, this is court of public opinion. This court of public opinion. It's not valid. I can't call someone corrupt. You understand? It's only a judge who's within the court of competent court can't call someone corrupt, no matter if they found $10 billion in his pocket, if it's possible. You understand what I'm saying? So the reality of the matter is that I would rather the EFCC went to court, have a lockdown case, Prove your case in court.
Okay.
Do not get to court like in the case of, I think it was just Ademola, where you're finding out that it's the federal government that is giving him ESTA code. You don't get there and you find out that, oh, the federal government gave him the license to own weapons. Newsflash, hello. You should have found that out before you went to court. Before you even put those charges there. You understand? So these are things that you put the cart before the horse. Don't do that. You understand?
But let's look at money politics, because you mentioned being able to strengthen our institutions as a way of developing the country, not just for this administration.
True,
but
beyond, because it's about the country.
Exactly.
It's about the country.
Now, money has become, unfortunately, very entrenched in our form of politics. Now, it's a give and take thing.
Yes.
If at the end of the day, politicians come on election day or before election day to say, take money, vote for me.
But infrastructure.
But then the people say no. The people become more enlightened. The people say no. We want someone we can trust, someone who has a history of honesty, transparency, patriotism, fairness, and justice. Now, it's a give and take thing. Now, unfortunately, the poverty level is alarming.
Okay, so it warps the thinking?
So exactly. So at the end of the day, you have people who don't care about their tomorrow as long as their bellies are filled today. So do you really think there's anything we can quite do from now to probably the next election, the next general election in the country, as against strengthening institutions and reducing money politics?
The reality of the matter is that money will always play a role in politics, anywhere in the world. There's countries like in the US, for instance, where they have the cap on how much you can spend, but there's still other ways to get around the law. You understand? I always joke that we call ourselves, we call our own version corrupt, but they call theirs lobbying. It's the same thing. It's just packaging. You understand? But the reality of the matter is money will play a role. The question is, how do you use that money? We need to get our people, first of all, to understand that somebody who is coming to give you money on the queue, you understand, really doesn't love you. Especially when he cannot answer the basic question as to what he would do in office.
How many people are interested in public debate?
Debate is even too far. I mean, for the fact that he's not supposed to be campaigning on the election day.
Of course,
you understand? But let's even get to the point that he decides to want to come and woo you and get your vote on that day. You know, ask him the basic questions. Anybody who comes, elections are coming up in Lagos State very soon. Okay. People are going to come to the queues, unfortunately.
Which is a criminal offense.
It's a criminal offense, yes.
But let's
I'm just saying, at that point, ask him. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, no. At that point, even if he gets to that point, which it will happen, ask him the questions. What would you do? You know, if you cannot answer those questions, I'm sorry. You can't vote for that person. Because the reality is that person is just empty. You understand? What can we do before that day? Platforms such as this, for instance, I'm a young person and I'm here and having this conversation. I realize that, especially from the last elections, people don't know really how governance works. You understand? It's a big divide. It's a big issue. And it's something that we need to address. It's something that we need to address. It's something we need to look at. People need to sit back, move away from this military mentality, because I also feel that it's a carryover from military thing, where we always think that once we have a president, everything will just fall in line. No, it's not just a miracle thing. Every arm of government has to play its role, from the judiciary to the executive to the legislature, down to the states. And also, people are even talking about state houses of assembly and the state judiciary. Come down to local government, and you have your councillors, and your structure is there. We have to ask the questions of all those people. If you're going to have, it's not enough to, because we've gotten to a stage in Nigeria where I automatically get a party's ticket in a locality and I'm a winner. You understand? No, it shouldn't be. It should be that you are going to win because you have the best foot forward, you have the best understanding of the issues on ground, and the people understand how, and with timelines, how you're going to achieve these things. It's not just give us castles in the air and tell us that you're going to resurrect pillars from wherever. No, no, no. Tell us how, and with timelines, and how we can hold you responsible. And of course, don't have amnesia down the road when you get to the governance. That's the
but then that's where the media comes in. Now, so far as regards strengthening institutions, like this program, like for the past couple of weeks, Crossfire has been talking a lot as how we can strengthen our institutions. And of course, youth involvement also in politics. But the media so far, particularly from 2015, social media has played a lot of roles.
Massive role.
Putting out a lot of information to help address some of these issues. But now we're supposed to have the National Orientation Agency, which is supposed to play a fundamental role as regards our psychic, how we see politics, how we day-to-day live our lives for the betterment of the country,
yes.
And of course ourselves. But we're not seeing so much. of that from
unfortunately,
the agency of the government. So is there any hope coming from the
there
government
is
quarters?
hope. There is hope because the truth is nature abhors a vacuum. And fortunately or unfortunately, social media has stepped into that vacuum. So while the NOA cannot have enough budget, as it were, or cannot be everywhere, Nigeria, it can be everywhere. I think it's NOA, yes. They can't be everywhere. The reality of the matter is that people have smartphones literally everywhere.
But then
data is not life.
Also,
yes, and people are going to have conversations.
But you know what? Yes. When you also look at the social media, because you cannot censor what you have. So unfortunately, you have a lot of have the good and the bad.
That's why I said fortunately.
And unfortunately, people tend to also follow the bad if it resonates with their friend of mine at that time.
More importantly, because of the cultural inclination of our people. You understand? If I were to, let me give you a typical newspaper stand.
Okay.
If you just have people gathered there, people tend to look at that newspaper that says, goat giving, a woman gives birth to a goat in the church. That is going to get a lot of people talking. It's about the psyche of the people. There is this thing about us that draws us to shocking news. It seems that we need something to shock us into reality. And our reality is a bit warped in the sense that, well, that's news.
But that's really why we need government agencies right now.
The truth is government can't be everywhere.
Remember, no.
See, I'm not going to hold forth and say...
I hope you know the National Orientation Agency, they're supposed to have branches across the 36 states.
Yes.
Across the local government. Across the local government.
But then...
So it can be said to say they have failed in totality.
And as much as, and I'm going to give a very, very interesting example, as much as we have the NTA everywhere, which is the official mouthpiece, we also have Wazobia Max, and you're reaching everybody. The reality is you can't be everywhere. So it's the way it is. Now, I'm not going to sit here and hold forth for NOA, say that rub them on the back and say, good job. No, there's still a lot they need to do. They need to communicate to people and get them engaged in politics, get them engaged in asking their leaders questions, because helping them understand that asking your leader a question doesn't mean you don't like him. But it's more about the country.
Accountability.
Yes, accountability, and then it's about love for the country. That when you go and buy fuel, you understand, you don't pay with APC or PDP notes or COA or ANRP or whatever it is. You pay with Naira. You understand? And it depends on how much of your hole is going to drain in your pocket. So these are the questions that we need to get. And the NOA needs to step up, of course, and lead the way and have the conversation with Nigerians that you own this country. Politicians are your staff. We are HR, as it were. We are HR, and we need to ask and ask questions of the politicians. Why are you doing this? Why we shouldn't have politicians sit back and tell us, I don't think I have to tell you how much it is you have spent, whatever. No, it doesn't work that way. Politicians shouldn't tell us that they're constituted authority. No, constituted by whom? Us. You understand? The people have the power. The people are the power, not the other way around. That's why I still believe that our biggest challenge has been that, aside from the lack of education and understanding the process we now run, which is democracy, because people still have an issue with it. People don't understand it yet. They don't understand it yet. They cannot appreciate the freedom that it offers yet. We're still having carryovers from the military regime. So automatically, I see my governor as a demigod. Automatically, I see the president as a demigod. Automatically, I can actually accept the thought that someone would say that president should shut down the Senate, for instance. Somebody will actually put that kind of thought out there, and you wonder, hello, these are three arms of government. This is the system we've run.
This is a democracy.
This is a democracy. You understand? We're not running a military regime where the Supreme Council will just decide. So it's still that big gap. That shock. We've not weaned ourselves off that military psyche. It's still there. It's still there in everything, and also applies in the way governance is run, from state governors holding on to local government purse strings, up to federal level. Holding on to.
Well, unfortunately, if I may also look at this also because the family at the end of the day, like we discussed, like some of our guests also talked about last week on the program. The family unit also seems to have a lot to play as regards our upbringing, our ideologies, because they form, first of all, the basics of our ideology, which we carry from home into the larger society. So you have parents, father, mother, who seem like demigods. Kids do not have a say. Anything your father, anything your mother says, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Okay, that's it. That's the end. No conversation, no rubbing minds.
No difference.
No, exactly. So we carry that society, we carry that mentality
Into
to our
society.
workplace, we carry it to school, we carry it to politics, and unfortunately, I mean, then, but what can we say? Now, we may also need to look at youth involvement in politics.
Yes,
Would this also help things become better? I will take your thoughts after we come back from this break. We'll be right back. Because at the end of the day, thank you for joining us, and of course, this is the Crossfire. I still have Kingsley Wabogu in the studio, and of course, he is a policy and political analyst, and of course, he's been doing a lot of justice to the discussion now. Kingsley,
Yes.
let's take the discussion further as regards youth involvement in politics. Now, quickly, in your definition, how would you define a youth? Within what age bracket?
18 to 35, yes.
18 to 35.
Why do you have that smile?
Because I actually had this the argument and conversation last week with our guest, and of course, he had to extend it to
he went to
50.
Oh, that's
now,
interesting.
but the truth is, at the end of the day, I did read something, as regards this article from the United Nations Development Program, and it was really insightful. The reason why, according to it, they cannot have a specific age bracket is because different countries have different developments. For Africa, it may be safe, in my opinion, it may be safe to extend it
to 50.
To 40.
Okay, 40. 40 is fine. 40 is
to
fine.
40. But now, since our transition from military era to democracy, we have not quite had sufficient youth. And when I mean youth, I'm talking about from 18 to 35. Let's leave the 40 to 50 first.
We have so not 35s, had...
exactly.
No.
We
I
have
don't think
not
we've had a 35 in top. No.
Ample. So could this also be a reason, because you look at world politics today, the dynamics are shifting. Countries are becoming more powerful intellectually. And at the end of the day, you find the youth are the ones at the front burner. You have them, science and technology, entertainment, art and culture, politics especially. But in Africa, in Nigeria, Nigerian youth seem to be excelling across the board, except politics. Now, if we have more infusion of youth in our political system, do you think it will also change this mentality as regards, the overlord behavior of some of the older political class, infusing new dynamism, attitudes, and behavioral patterns to also help the country grow?
I think it would, but I think it also not exactly the perfect picture or the true picture to say that across the world that youths are now breaking solo, as it were, and away from the reality of the establishments exists everywhere. In the US, you have the Tea Party. You understand? That's the reality of it. If you go, I was trying to remember something about, I just keep my train of thought there. But the reality of it is that the youths have always played a role. Although the reality is, the truth is that we need them to play a lot more role in government. Than the older.
Particularly policy formation.
Policy formation, one. In fact, this is how I like to approach it. The entire political value chain, is a major spread, from policy formation to holding key positions, to sitting on platforms like this, to holding positions in parties, and you understand, or to even being supporters and being responsible followers who hold their leaders accountable. It's an entire political value chain. So the youths have to ask themselves, where do we want to play? Ask yourself which competence, calls to you more, which do you think? And then that brings the major word for me. As much as I love your youth and I want us in there and I want the youth to take charge and all that, I also am very focused more on competence. I want a competent person other than a young person. Yes,
irrespective. So
irrespective
even if we have
age,
a 90-year-old individual.
No. And it's not to say that we don't have competent youths. No. It's not to say that we don't have competent youths. I'm very, very sure that we have a lot of competent youths to go around position by position. But if you take the total number of elective positions in Nigeria, give or take 6,000 positions, you have about 30 million youths. Who's going to give it up? You understand what I'm saying? So the ratio doesn't add up. It's a massive gap. That leaves a lot of spaces to play. So youths now need to come to the front and take positions up in parties. For instance, a party, I think one of the parties, COA, just appointed someone in the youthful bracket as his national PRO. So it's still the same thing. Parties need to now act, and it comes down to something else, because we also have this, establishments exist everywhere, but we also have this, how do I see, because youths are naturally seen as uncontrollable? How do I seed
Radical.
yes, radical. How do I seed power to these people and have them at the parties
At a beck and call.
exactly? Are the parties willing to change? Are the parties willing to have that conversation, to have the youth come in? You understand? You look at the average price of even getting a nomination ticket, and you ask yourself, how many youths have that kind of money
Exactly.
to even take this? So, beyond having all the noise about youth, the parties also have to look at their internal democratic structures, and ask themselves, are we consciously pushing the youth or consciously just shutting them down? You know, are we just relegating them to just, okay, you know what, I'll give you a social media position, I'll give you a photo handler position, I'll give you a shout for me when I get to the party position, PA position. The truth is, a PA position is not exactly bad, but as long as it's a path, it's not an end, but it means to an end.
Yeah.
You know, so
at
because
what
you
point?
because you really need to learn the ropes.
If you also
Politics is about learning the ropes.
If you look at 1999 to date, we've had more of PAs, we've had more of secretaries. So, but then, at what point should it transcend?
Well, we've had the number 4 man who's like 40, it was the Dimoji Bankole. Yes, and you know, Nigeria Civil War was fought by 2 people who were under 35.
Of
so
course.
that was at the time, Yakubu Gowon and
Odumegwu
Ojukwu,
Yeah.
yes. So youths have had their bit in this country, or have had a bit, not their bit, a bit.
Under the military era.
Under the military era, you know, but fast track to 2017, and here we are. I think that it's not a sin if, for instance, a 30-year-old is running for governor in Lagos State, or a 30-year-old is commissioner. We have one who is a commissioner in Anambra State.
No, Cross River State.
And even Cross River State. So, but it needs to be a lot more. I don't want it to be, I would not push for, oh, let's have a policy direction and all of that.
Yeah.
I want it to be organic. I want it to be natural.
Yeah.
They should look at you and say, oh, this person has a competence. I think it's wonderful. Let him, you know, I'll give you a very interesting example. Okay, I'm not going to say this.
Okay.
I'm not going to say this.
Okay.
But the truth of the matter is, youths can do it. You know, I mean, look at the average age. I'm going to put it this way. Look at the average age of the presenters on the stations around now.
Yeah.
Quite young, quite sharp, quite, you understand, questions. Even Richard Quest, in one of his tweets, he said, he was on the station and said, the questions from the Nigerian presenters were on point, they were sharp. And he even talked about the amount
youth
of
population,
youth population,
how much
and
resource.
how much resource.
Yeah.
So the reality is that the resources, that the youths are good. We can do this job.
All they need is policy direction.
Not necessarily policy direction, but
basically,
we need to. I think
policy
first of all,
direction.
the youths need to step up from where they've been put. Here's why I say they've been put. I was at a program earlier this year. They were giving a Man of the Year award, and it had a section of youths. I think a representative of Nigeria Union of Students or something. Yeah. And all they were doing in that hall, fantastic hall. All they were doing in that hall was when one particular politician stood up to speak, they would scream and hail, and that's it. And I kept asking myself, I felt embarrassed to be a youth. Because these are like my age mates, and this is all you came here to do, really? Seriously? Through all that security, dressed up, this is all you came here to do? You know,
and clap.
if you allow yourself to be put in that box, then it's disappointing. The youths need to step up from being just the guys who can handle social media platforms and handles when it's
and
election
then go on
period.
social media and fight and then curse at
Exactly.
themselves.
They should go up from that point to, okay, you know what, this policy, this is why I differ with this policy, with very cogent reasons. And importantly, I think that one thing we can do, because Nigeria is very particular, especially the African culture is particular by respect, we should also learn how to respectfully differ. You understand? Because it's something that calls on to our elders. Respectfully. So I put on a post on my Facebook wall where, you know, I talked about the Anthony Joshua knockdown of Vladimir Klitschko. And he didn't go running his 32 on Klitschko. He still had the respect. That was a fantastic advertisement for Nigerian culture. Respect.
Yeah.
So as much as he's young and he just knocked out someone older, he still had enough respect to communicate. So youth should also do that. When you engage, social media allows you easy access these days to people you might not necessarily have to meet.
That's true.
Who hold positions in policy and all of that. When you get to meet them and you interact with them on social media, try your best possible, this is a heartfelt advice, to interact with them as respectfully as possible.
As you can.
Differ as respectfully as possible. And make
Convey
your
your
point
informations.
as clear as possible. Do not go there with abbreviations and use and all of that. You know, it's a generational gap. There's a cultural shock there. First of all, it's hard for them having a conversation with you, you know, that you're younger. it's hard. Like, what does he even know?
What do
You know,
they do?
why? What does he want to talk about? But yes, now they're on social media. They're on Facebook. Okay, you can't run. You're on Facebook. You have to come on Facebook. Fine and good. Now you're on Facebook, and the person wants to have a conversation, and he's doing all the use and all the swear words. No, have a respectful conversation with the person and differ on the structure of the policy as to why you think it's not right or why it's wrong, why you support it or why. It's one of those ways that youths can get involved.
Okay.
You know? But importantly, youths also have to push. Start from local government councillors. Start from local government.
Start
chairman,
from the basics.
and start from the basics.
Yeah.
Because you really nobody's just going to take you and take you straight to presidency.
That's true.
You know, there's a lot of things that needs to go before you get there. You understand? We may not necessarily have to go the whole 9 yards. You may not necessarily have to have someone who has to go from councillor all the way. You know, but the reality is, even if you're a PA, be a very good PA.
Outstanding PA.
Outstanding PA.
Now, okay, now let's move. Although I still have some questions to ask you as regards youth development, but then let's quickly look at the other issue. The herdsmen crisis
Ah, that one.
have lingered.
Yes.
And I say this with all honesty, since I was born, since I grew up as a little child, because, you know, having to read the papers,
Yes.
you know, back then, you know, the scraps after my parents have probably read and then they
Yes.
dumped it somewhere, I have to go read.
So it was coming. It was coming.
It has always, you know, the issue about
I mean, like
killings,
you in the press have always.
maybe, maybe, but then the issue as regards herdsmen killing, herdsmen crisis,
Yes.
has, you know, spanned on for well over 20 years. Unfortunately, we have not found a way to properly addressing it, and unfortunately, it seems to have become more pronounced.
Okay.
Now, you look at, of course, there's so many reasons why we have some of these nomadic movements,
Yes.
particularly climate change.
I was going to say that climate change.
Particularly
fantastic,
climate
yes.
change. Now, we have not seen much, you know, as regards preserving the environment from Nigerian leaders. Unfortunately, we have not seen so much coming from the African Union as how to address some of the climate change, you know, changes in their respective countries. So now they're pushing these herdsmen southward to look for greener pastures. Now, unfortunately, based on the ideology, based on their movements, probably based on issues, things they've been exposed to, hard drugs, you know, and then that's anger, restiveness they move with, they come with a lot of baggage, which unfortunately one of them has become death. Now, recently, we've had a lot of, you know, killings. The Benue, the Kaduna crisis, we've had...
Benue is like a recurring decimal. It's
Yeah.
like Benue,
Exactly, Benue, Kaduna,
Benue, Kaduna,
Abraka,
Benue,
Osisa
Kaduna, yeah.
recently in
Yes.
Delta State, you know, some days ago. And unfortunately, it's spreading, and then the government, they're not quite doing much to addressing this. The respective state governors are not doing so much as addressing this. Now, you look at the convention, the ECOWAS convention, and probably other African conventions, which Nigeria is a signatory as, you know, as regards transborder
movement and all that.
Don't you think it's about time?
We do a Brexit?
Not probably Brexit. No. I wouldn't quite say a Brexit, but then
I mean,
don't you
Brexit
think,
in the terms of blocking our borders.
No, the truth is you cannot quite block your borders.
Exactly.
But the thing is, as regards some of these conventions, don't you think it's about time the government of Nigeria takes a look at all these documents which we're signatories to and look at how we can amend some of them in our favor?
Okay, so I'm going to start
to protect our people.
I'm going to start from where you started from. You have a fantastic reason for for the movement, which is climate change. At a point, you almost had me. I was like, okay, is she not a lawyer for the herdsmen, you know, baggage and all of that? But this is it. This is it. If we were to plot a graph of herdsmen attacks and all of that, we'll have a plateau graph steady up to this point, and then within the last 2 years, the graph just spikes.
True.
You know, and it's, you know, the graph has stayed that way, and the frequency has increased, and you have to ask yourself why. What has emboldened them? It used to be just, okay, you have your cattle on my farm.
Yeah.
Now it's not just cattle on my farm.
It's
you have killed, you have cleared my village. It's not just about taking out the farm now. They have cleared the village. So what has given them so much baggage, in your words, you know? I yes, agree with the school of thought when you talk about climate change, because yes, you can't predict weather patterns anymore so accurately.
Which we are responsible for.
Yes, humans around the world,
We are
not necessarily us per se, because
but then also
we're not there
our culture.
I agree.
We are responsible largely.
I agree. Everybody, humans on Earth have played a role in some way. Climate change. I totally agree with that. But I think it is unfair to the people who have lost their lives to just, you know, almost excuse the actions of the herdsmen.
They don't have any action.
They don't have any explanation to take out lives, to to rape people, to kill them, you know, and all of that because you want your cattle to feed. The last time I checked, that is a private business.
Very true.
The last time I checked, the meat is not sold for, it's not for free. It's sold. The cattle is sold.
Yeah.
Right? They're not running NGOs. Right? They're running business ventures. Now, let's try and put it this way, because it seems maybe cattle make it so big. So let's simplify it. Everybody who has a poultry farm in Nigeria, run riot. Just let your poultry onto the roads, let your poultry onto the farms, have fun. There will be chaos. Now, and then government will start saying, okay, we want to give them a grazing route. I think that is annoying. Personally, I think it's very annoying. If you run a business, I think we all have to, for once, learn something from Ayotunde Fayose. Put all of them in their box.
Okay.
You cannot graze beyond 6 p.m. It's 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And you cannot graze on a land that is not designated as a ranch.
Yeah.
So you can't go on someone's farm and graze, no matter how green it looks.
Yeah.
You understand? Because in the scale of things, I think food comes first for meat.
Of course.
In fact, in Africa,
Well,
they
meat
train you
is
to eat
also
the food.
food.
Yeah, but they train you to eat the food first before you eat the meat. So let's get it. We have to eat first before the cattle starts to eat. But be that as it may, let's not trivialize a very serious matter. The reality is that also people get this, there's this perception out there, there's this feeling that government is not taking that issue seriously. Yes, we've had last year, the government talked about sending the army and all of that. But
not the considering tabling this before the African Union.
Yes, but
how sufficient?
It's sad because we're looking at people who are not Nigerians as, you know, they're not Nigerians and they're coming to Nigeria and they're having fun, in inverted commas, fun, running riot on Nigerian villages, running riot on Nigerian lives. This is the point where we need to, in words, I said in my words earlier, do a Brexit in the sense that stand up for our own people.
Okay.
We have to draw the line and say, no, this doesn't work. If you're going to do business, we want to have ease of doing business, yes, and good and fantastic. But if you're going to do business in Nigeria, you're going to do it right. And that means that you're going to have a ranch, which means you have to buy the land. I'm not just going to have to give you land. I could as well give land to everybody running a poultry, give land to everybody running a farm. You understand what I'm saying? Buy the land and do your business. If you're not going to do that, then please do not.
Now, we have a problem also as regards border movement. Now, even if this matter is addressed by the African Union, addressed by the respective states, now that's another issue.
You're not going to build
because
fences.
At the end of the day, we have over 2,000 illegal routes into the country.
Well, every country has illegal routes.
Which are not manned. So the possibility is there that even if this matter is addressed at the African Union level, and the respective state governments try their best to, you know, beef up security, one way or the other, there may be pockets of infiltration.
Let me help you out with something.
So how do we address that?
We have 36 states. 36 states for the FCT.
The FCT,
Yes, and we have Ekiti, right? Ekiti's biggest herdsmen issue was in May 2016. And then they passed that law. Newsflash, they've not had one. Since then. One. What happened? What did they do right that other states haven't done?
Beefing up the local security.
Exactly. Beefing up local security, having limits. You know, first of all, it stems from the governor. Yes, I understand that we don't have state police. I understand that you are almost hampered by the fact that, you know, the police in your state, commissioner in your state has to take orders from the IGP, and all of that. I understand all of those issues. But in the end, you're the chief security officer of that state. So you need to draw the line. You don't go after the herdsmen have run riot on a village and tell them, okay, I'm going to deploy a detachment of policemen over here who may or may not, and this is conjecture now, may or may not look away when the herdsmen come rampaging. You understand? Make it a law. States have the right to make laws, so make your own law. Within my boundaries, this is how you do this business, if you want to do this business.
And then probably also have local vigilante groups.
Have local vigilante groups. You know, I mean, the Ekiti law is so detailed. I mean, it's so detailed that it designates, it's maybe a bit extreme, but it designates every, what's it called now, headsman who's holding a weapon, a gun, as a terrorist. Now, that's a bit extreme, but in the end, it's worked. Now, I may not necessarily go that route in the sense that you have to designate all of them who have guns, because they also face issues of castle rustling, which is the truth.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is the truth. You know, so, but what do we have to do here in this instance is find a balance. Define where you're coming to my state. Gracefully, they have unions who always show up for meetings, dutifully have conversations with you, and then have amnesia about who carries out the attacks.
Yeah.
You understand? Okay, fine.
So you can put a face to them.
Exactly. So, dudes, you want to do business in this state, then this is how it works.
I mean, look at Lagos State, for example.
Yes.
Lagos State, under its agricultural sector,
Yes.
they've given grants to farmers for various
Yes.
farming, vegetable farming,
Yes.
whatever it is.
Piggery, anything you
So
want to
at the
do.
end of the day, I mean, at the bulk of the land in the
It's a
state
grant, yeah.
belongs to the state government. So
True.
don't you think it's also about time, also in addressing this issue, that state governors can come out and say, look, we're also putting an end to free grazing in the
Yes.
state. It will become a criminal offense if you free graze. But we can also do business. We can give you land.
In fact, it's a
certain
business
percentage,
opportunity just waiting.
Pay
It's a waiting
certain
business
amount
opportunity.
of money,
Yes.
and then we give you land, but then you must not graze
In fact,
within the state.
within that land, we will
Now, so
give
far,
you.
we're not seeing this coming from
Yes, we
respective
didn't-
state governors. Why is that?
I don't know. It's this. I don't know. It's this unspoken hand. You know that voice of Esau, hand hand of Esau, voice of Jacob thing. You kind of feel like, who are these governors scared of? You know, that he had to take, the most extreme opposition governor to do what he did. I missed all the flack and all of that, but it has worked. You understand? Who are these governors scared of? Why are they not doing what they should do? You understand? You have to protect the lives of your citizens. And these people, yes, some of them are citizens. And the reality is that we want business in our country. This is a money-spinning venture.
That's true.
If you put them, if the governors say, okay, we want to go out of our way, of their way, and say, okay,
XYZ acre of
XYZ
land
acre of land is a designated ranch. You will pay taxes on it. All facilities will be there for you. Pay taxes. You use all those facilities from
there will be roads
linking
people
to and fro and buy and understand.
and
It's a business venture that is just waiting to be picked up. You understand? Even if the state governors or state governments can't do this, it's simple.
private
venture. Open this. Okay, we want to have ranches in our state.
Okay, now because we're wrapping up, we have less than a minute to the end of the program.
Wow.
Now, what do you think will come out of the African Union as regards addressing this issue? Do you think anything favorable to the country will come out of this?
I think we have to ask what is favorable. African Union going to ask us to go beat our borders or ask us to go and sort our issues. That's exactly what they're going to tell us to do, go and sort your issues. Yes, okay, people are going to move, transborder movement. Okay. Because we really want to tap into that transborder movement, and all of that. But I don't think they're going to give us anything that we can't give to ourselves.
To enjoy more of these our Ogbonge videos when you just watch, press this button to subscribe on top of our YouTube page. You go love am.